Am I speaking loud enough?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
What year did you receive your master's?
Approximately 1998. And I haven't been asked that question for many years, so excuse me for it. But it was an executive type of program where I was going over a longer term than a traditional master's degree.
What was the next position that you had?
Next position was I was nominated and then elected into a global executive program under Volvo Car Corporation, which is the global.
So what was this executive program then?
The executive program was essentially an initiative by Volvo Car Corporation to attempt to identify the future leaders of the Volvo Car Corporation, whereby they recruited approximately 20 individuals on a global basis and brought them in for leadership training, interpersonal skills, things of that nature. And then approximately after 90 days to, again, this is going back, put us into a foreign organization. And by the term foreign, what I define that as is that a organization outside of your home organization, and also in a role organization that is not familiar with you in the past. As an example, I left customer service from parts and moved into an organization that was talking about automotive strategy and defining what a future product content should look like on a European basis.
Who conducted the training?
Volvo Car Corporation, in conjunction with IHM Business School out of Gothenburg, Sweden.
And there you moved from more of a parts focus to auto strategy?
True.
Okay. And what is auto strategy?
This was harmonizing the offer of the products amongst the different European countries. Is that clear enough?
I believe so.
Thank you.
What were your duties and responsibilities as Vice President of Western Region?
Working with approximately 116 Volvo retailers in the Western region. Working is defined as ensuring that they had the right tools and the right offer in the marketplace to hit sales objectives, parts objectives, to ensure that they had the right tools and assets in the marketplace to ensure that the Volvo brand was cascaded or amplified in the marketplace, aligned with, again, the Volvo guidelines. Ensuring that they had the correct support, whether that be from an offer to organization.
And who is Polestar?
Polestar is a automotive company that is owned in portion by Volvo Car Corporation, not in totality.
What would be your job title?
President of Polestar for USA.
Forgive me if I've completely missed it, but Polestar would be essentially a new brand, but the luxury level brand for Volvo?
It is a new brand. It's a new entity. It's not wholly owned by Volvo. It's portionately owned by Volvo. The other portion is owned by Geely Automotive Holdings out of China, which is Volvo Car Corporation's parent company.
Is Geely a Chinese company?
It is.
Did you ever do any independent investigation in terms of why the existing Volvo franchisee or dealer was selling to the new franchisee?
Independent, meaning I don't understand what that independent means.
You personally, did you go and interview the former owner, or did you look at any of the books and records or try to figure out why it was that they were selling?
No, it was word of mouth from the dealer principal. I did not conduct a study.
Okay. Did you actually speak with the former owners?
In the case of Volvo, absolutely. I had a very strong rapport with them. We were business partners.
When you say business partners, what do you mean?
Franchisor to franchisee relationship. we were both had a mutual interest in succeeding in again, selling Volvo cars and making sure that we had a good relationship, servicing customers, selling Volvo parts and service as well.
And would your answer be the same for all of the retailers that fall under your area?
Every 116 of them at that time.
And as a business partner, as you described, were you trying to help the dealer to get out of these financial problems?
I'm struggling with your question because that's what I wake up and do every single day in this role, is help my business partner to sell Volvo parts, cars, and service. What's good for him is good for us. So the answer is yes. The answer is yes.
Besides decreasing the time through the COD process, was there anything else that you did, VCNA did, to try and facilitate or accommodate the dealer because of the financial issues that it was facing?
I can't recall.
Did you receive a report from anyone regarding why he decided or why his ARA was terminated?
Voluntary terminated. I don't recall. And I'm sorry, this goes many years back.
I understand.
And the other one, whether this is relevant or not, I had a very strong management team. We had a very strong rapport. And I let my managers do the jobs that they were, should I say, competent enough to do, and also making sure that they did their roles. So my role as the vice president was not specifically to be in the granularity of all dealerships and the details of it.
And just because it's a big word and one that I'm unfamiliar with, you've used it a few times now, granularity means what?
The nitty-gritty details.
First, starting with the team that you sent in, did they report back to you before you got into the meeting?
I believe so. It would be very, I don't recall, but I would say that it would be extremely unusual that we would walk into that meeting and for me to hear this the first time.
Did they report to you in writing or verbally over the telephone?
It would be verbally over the telephone in a team environment, not unlike what we're doing around the table right now.
And do you recall having a team discussion about the opportunities?
Now that you bring it to my attention, the answer was yes. It was at a restaurant. I actually think it was Tommy Bahamas. Again, I don't mean to sound flippant, but I've had the good fortune, I didn't have to drive. My team would, again, who's driving? Okay, so-and-so will drive. So, again, I had the privilege of sitting in the back seat or a passenger seat and watching the view drive by.
Did you do any analysis into opportunities missed?
Most likely. I can't recall what the output of that was, but just simply, this would not be a topic of discussion amongst seasoned technical specialists and after-sales managers and a market manager if it wasn't something that they didn't identify an opportunity and then going back, identifying a root cause for that missed opportunity.
Do you have a specific recollection about the percentage of missed opportunity?
I do not.
Who sets that amount?
Again, it's formulated based on retailer guidelines and standards.
Okay. One of the variables sounded like, the first one was based upon sales objective, you said. Is that right?
Under column number 6.
Yes.
Yeah.
So who sets the sales objective?
The sales objective, again, is an output of, it's an integral process where all dealerships follow the same formulation. So just to clarify, there's not one person that would be saying, I want him to do 300 a year and him to 320, and he should only do 300 because they work hard. There's a formulation depending on where we are chronologically. It could be anything from past travel rate weighted with opportunity. It could be based on sales effectiveness and sales effectiveness opportunity in the marketplace. So again, if you look back at years, there has been some differences the way that sales objectives have been set, but they've always been set in the same process regardless of the 300 dealerships nationwide. And I have gone through retailers where they haven't agreed to their sales objective, but we don't change them based on whether you like them or you dislike them. We base them, again, going back to the word integrity on this.
So what is punched inventory?
Punched inventory is, in this context, would be service loaners or demonstrators. Those are cars that have already been RDR'd. Those cars that have traditionally been RDR'd but do not have a customer at the end of them are historically used for service loaners.
Does VCNA or Volvo Car USA have a guideline or a best practice in terms of the amount of demonstrators a dealer should have?
Vague compound. Go ahead.
And again, I just want to clarify. You're asking me service loaners or demonstrators?
I think I said demonstrator.
Okay. Demonstrators, we ask that when a new model gets launched, depending on the volume, that there is 1 to 2 of them. We will identify that in a bulletin.
Did you personally review Volvo Honolulu's business model at any time?
Objection vague.
When it comes back to, again, just as I shared, the answer is in parts and pieces and not in totality. When we were looking for opportunities to how to increase the business there, it was primarily focused on opportunities such as service and customer satisfaction. So the business model that they were working with at that point, obviously, the answer is yes.
Is it acceptable to Volvo Car USA or VCNA not to have service loaners that are provided for through the program?
Objection vague. Go ahead.
I am more interested in the output than the input. And to define that is that if I have dealerships that have customer satisfaction scores that are glowing, I'll be flippant. I honestly not really caring if they give them a bicycle to use.
Is there, assuming there's data kept on everything, but is there data kept on what the depreciation is on each of the Volvo models of cars?
Objection vague.
I'll try to answer this best I can. The market conditions based on geography, the competitive environment, meaning the landscape, and the incentives, the trim level, all variables that come in. We look at depreciation on a car on a lease, and we take a speculation based on Automotive Lease Guide, which is a vendor in the industry right now that states that, as an example, if you have this and you put it into the marketplace with this price, after 3 years it'll be worth this price. And then you have a residual value in the depreciation. If you're asking me, have we done a calculation based on car line, by market, by retailer, I would say, as with my experience, it's almost impossible to calculate that.
Is there a definition of a retired demonstrator?
Retired demonstrator is a demonstrator that's gone through its merchandising period. Inventory is now at the dealership, and that car can find its way into the pre-owned channel.
Is there a set time in terms of demonstrator lifespan?
No, not like service loaners.
So Volvo Car USA or VCNA does not have, first of all, a written policy on when a demonstrator is no longer a demonstrator.
Correct.
Do you recognize that document?
I recognize it as a part statement by the definition at the head.
Okay. And are you generally familiar what a part statement is for VCNA or Volvo Car USA?
Yes.
Can you tell me generally what a part statement is?
Part statement is a reconciliation statement to look at the credits and debits between Volvo Cars North America and a retail partner.
Looking at the debits and credits, as you say, when you see a minus next to the dollar figure in the right column, does that represent a debit or credit to the dealer?
I don't know. I don't know.
And most importantly, between a minus next to the last dollar figure, you can't tell me right now whether or not that's money owing to or credited to NV Hawaii LLC, or that NV LLC owes to Volvo Cars of North America LLC. Is that
Yes,
right?
that's what I said.
Let's say Volvo Honolulu recognized XC90s as the hottest moving car, which it probably is, and they only wanted to order 80% XC90s and only 20% of other types of models. Could they do that?
No, they could not.
Why not?
Because of factory constraints.
When he talks about making sure that Volvo Honolulu gets their fair share, what do you understand him to mean?
You want to make sure that you get your fair share. I don't know what he's insinuating there.
Does this say that there is some discretion? Is this the market override, do you believe, that he's talking about?
I do not.
Okay.
I do not.
Does Mr. Ellis have any discretion in terms of allocation?
Yes.
What is his discretion?
Historically, on slow-moving vehicles, there is excess supply versus demand. So then the allocation procedure, where you end up in a situation of where I shared before, is that the dealer has the ability to reject vehicles. Those cars go into a holding pool, which are up for discretionary allocations based on if dealerships want more cars.
His letter indicates that part of the transformation is planned around this new margin and bonus program. Do you see that?
I do see that.
Do you know what that program involves?
Yes, I do.
What does it involve?
It primarily involves the migration from a fixed dealer margin, whereby the dealerships had an opportunity to, I shouldn't say opportunity, where the dealerships earned a set margin structure for just, for all intents and purposes, waking up in the morning and having a Volvo sign outside the building. As we've migrated from Vail, we have put portions of that margin as variable, meaning that the dealerships need to meet certain thresholds to earn portions of that margin.
You had testified regarding the advisory council again.
Yes.
You had earlier said that it was a democratic by election. Is that right?
I said the last round was.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to that, was it an appointment process?
It was an appointment process.
And who appointed the retailers to the advisory council?
They were nominated by the vice presidents of the region, so as example myself, and they were seconded by someone within the executive team. Primarily it was the vice president of network or the CEO.
First of all, what is RDR?
RDR is an acronym that we use for a car that has been entered as sold in the retail system. I believe the true definition is retail delivered report or retail delivered recognition, something along those lines.
Punching or punched synonymous with RDR?
Objection vague.
It's not synonymous.
What's the difference between punching and punched and RDR?
My interpretation of them is an RDR is a car that has put in for sale. A punched car is a car that was used for service loaner or demonstrator that has not found an ultimate retail home yet or a customer home yet.
Was there any suggestion, or did you have any suggestions or recommendations on how to better process?
Quite a bit.
What were your thoughts and recommendations?
My recommendations were, there was an inventory manager at the time, a female, who I believed also had a duality in her role. She might have been an admin at the store as well. My recollection is that, again, going back to my days in logistics and process improvement, when I worked in the UK, is that we tried to have her work on batching the vehicles out of Port Hueneme. So to answer this question is going to be very long-winded, and if you wish me to go, I will, but I think it's relevant for the question you're asking me.
I'm not asking you to read the entire document, but just looking at the first page, can you tell me what that is?
This is a promotional wheel bonus program for Southern California dealerships.
Did you have any input into the wheel bonus program?
Yes, I did.
Was it your idea?
I can't say it was solely my idea. It was a collaborative idea between the Southern California dealerships, my sales and marketing manager, my 2 market managers, and myself at a meeting in Los Angeles.
What was the intent of the bonus?
The intent of the bonus was to, what the sales managers felt is that the stock wheel, the wheel that came from the factory, was very unattractive, was not in line with the expectations of a Southern California customer who wanted something that was a little bit more attractive and bigger.
Did you have to run this program by corporate before you initiated it?
Most likely, yes. The process goes is that I have a discretionary budget to run market incentives, or whether it be advertising or whether it be a variable marketing program. But at the end, it would most likely have to be signed off also by someone within the finance community in Volvo Cars North America.
Was there, by metrics, has the wheel bonus program been successful?
I don't know. Again, you've got to appreciate you're asking me something from 4 years ago. I can tell you that based on our profitability targets that we've had to deliver, that if it wasn't something that had a benefit to it, we probably wouldn't continue with it.
Did Volvo Honolulu ever ask to be a part of the wheel bonus program?
My recollection was yes.
Do you know when it was made?
I remember sitting across from him in an office. It could have been the same time that I went and looked at the facility. So I asked something very similar. Could you please draw up a business plan for us that would show that there'd be increased consideration, increased business in Hawaii, and then we'll evaluate whether we bring this to the islands or not. I don't recall ever seeing a message back.
Mr. testified yesterday that Volvo Honolulu did make a request, and that request, he believed, was granted.
Sorry, objection. That isn't what he testified to. But
What did he say, Mr.?
It's your deposition.
So your objection is to misstates the testimony, something like that. That's my recollection, anyway.
I can but we're saying different things.
Okay, correct.
I'm saying that he put a request in, and I don't ever recall him seeing a business case. You're now telling me that it was granted to him.
That's what I'm just saying. That my recollection of Mr. Alone is he said that he believes that they were allowed to participate in the bonus program.
That's good.
Who pays for the advertising in the Southern California area?
As I mentioned, there is a addendum on the invoice, or not. There's actually part of the invoice where the customer actually pays a portion of that advertising. And then beyond that, there's the national overlay. So the national team also puts a portion of advertising into the LA marketplace.
So there's no violation of a Volvo policy or procedure just by having a rental company. It just has to be operated separately.
Objection. Vague.
Is that right?
Mistakes his testimony. Compound. Go ahead.
There is. Could you restate the question so I can answer it correctly?
Sure. Is there a per se violation of any Volvo policies or procedures just because a dealer of a Volvo franchise also operates a rental company?
Objection. The term rental company is vague, particularly in this context. The document you have showing up here is your client directing cars away from Volvo. Anyway, so objection, vague. What do you mean by rental company? Go ahead.
The way I'll answer that question is no, as long as it does not compromise the Volvo business, the corporate agreement that we have with the franchisor and franchisee.
Do you recall a name change from VCNA to Volvo Car USA?
Yes.
Do you know when that occurred?
I recall it being either January of 16 or January of 2017.
Was there someone tasked with the responsibility of ensuring that the necessary licenses were procured by the new entity?
Yes, overall responsibility would have fallen at that time of Adam, who was our legal counsel.
Did you know that at a period of time that Volvo Car USA did not have a distributor's license to sell cars in Hawaii?
I learned about it afterwards.
When did you learn about it?
I believe it was when the lawsuit was sent over originally, and I don't recall the timing of it, but the milestone in my memory was when the lawsuit was sent over.
Do you know whether Volvo Honolulu was legally allowed to sell vehicles during that time when there was no license?
I'm not
Objection
aware of
vague.
I'm not aware of that.
Testimony has been that there are monthly financial statements that are supposed to be due and presented by the dealers every month to corporate and to the region. Is that your understanding as well?
I will not use the word presented, I use the word submitted.
Okay,
They're submitted electronically, and that's part of the dealer operating standards, is they submit a dealer financial statement on a monthly basis.
Do you have education, first of all, in reading financial statements?
I have had formal education on financial statements, albeit approximately 15 years ago.
Do you review the monthly financial statements that are submitted by retailers?
Not as practice. 60?
Yes.
Yes, this is a daily sales report that's sent to the dealerships identifying where they stand as far as their sales achievement go for the month.
You see that?
There's a number of 105, I believe.
Yes. What does that stand for?
That means that the Los Angeles South retailers have achieved cumulatively together 105 retail sales for the month of February.
And what constitutes a retail sale?
Objection vague.
A retail sale goes under the umbrella of RDR, which we spoke about before. That is a car that could be considered delivered to an end customer, could be registered as a service loaner or as a demonstrator.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
You gave a different definition to punched, right?
Yeah, punched terminology is traditionally a car that has been prior RDR'd, but has yet to be delivered to the end customer. Historically, they fall under a service loaner or demonstrator umbrella.
But in the definition that you just gave for the daily sales report for MTD retail, you said service loaners and demonstrators would be counted. Is that right?
That's correct.
And they would be counted as soon as they were
RDR'd.
RDR'd.
That's right.
Do you ever make a request to a retailer to RDR a car?
I never make a request to have a dealership RDR a car.
Have you ever made a request to any dealer to punch a car?
While I don't recall, I'm certain within my years, I've asked a dealership to punch a car or RDR a vehicle.
And does this sales data, do all of these 105 sales count towards the retailer's projections for the next month, next year, etc.?
Objection vague.
They count towards a sales objective?
Yes.
Yes, they do.
And that would be irrespective of whether they're a demonstrator or a service loaner. They would still be counted toward a sales objective.
Correct.
Flip with me to the next page. This is a daily sales report dated February 29th, 2016. Do you see that?
I do.
And in the same...
Must have been a leap year.
That's right. So in this leap year, in that same column, in that same block, the MTD retail is a total of 10 sales. Do you see that?
Yes, a doubling, if you will.
Okay. Looking at the same LA South block on the MTD retail column, you see that? So there's 192 vehicles that are RDR'd, correct?
That's correct.
On this November 28th.
Mm-hmm.
Would you flip with me to
The day after?
yes, the day after, well, that's 2 days after, on the 30th.
So it's another 78, another 80 cars.
Okay. And again, would your explanation be the same for that significant increase in the amount of cars that were RDR'd?
Haven't even
Objection
flinched.
vague.
Yeah. If you're asking me if this is unusual to see 80 more cars RDR'd over the last 2 business days of the month, including, again, I'd have to take a look at the calendar, but this may or may not have been Thanksgiving weekend. This doesn't surprise me one bit. Again, going back to the same rationale.
Were you the person that came up with this demo assistance program? You had left already, if it was truly January of 2017, correct?
That's correct. That's true. Yeah, this is like writing a check the day after the New Year. I would imagine that somebody put the wrong date on this. But no, I'm not in the Western region at this point.
So have you ever, in all of your years with Volvo, ever seen a demo assistance program that had a start date, end date, and RDR date all the same date?
Yes.
How many times?
I can't recall. I've been with the company for 25 years.
Was it more than one?
Yes.
Was it more than two?
Yes.
Was it more than five?
I don't know.
Look at the second page of the document in the same block, the LA South block.
Okay.
And again, looking at MTD retail.
223.
Yes. And then the next page on January 3rd, 2017. How many vehicles do you see there?
283, if my eyesight is correct.
And again, it doesn't seem that you have flinched at all. So
It's the last day of the month of the year to put to sell 50 cars on the day before New Year's Eve, and also the day of January 3rd, the first day back after the holiday.
not uncommon.
Not at all. In fact, I would have probably expected more business that would have been generated over that time period.